I'd like to call our October 14th, 2021 Rutherford County Board of Commissioners into session. Our chaplain hasn't made it yet. He's probably stuck in traffic. But at this point, I'd like to call on Chairman Craig Harris from our steering committee. Please come forward and say our prayer and then lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag and then to the Tennessee flag. Commissioner Harris, you're recognized.
Love and your blessings. Thank you for your grace. Thank you, Father, for all the things you have done. You're a glorious God, and we cannot make it in this world without you, and we're 100% total dependent on you. Father, give us strength, wisdom, and courage to stay on our path. And thank you, Father, for dying on the cross to forgive us of our sins and rising to come our Lord. So many of us need you, Father, and so many of us cry to you. And we know, Father, you are a good God and a glorious God, and you will take care of us. Help all these commissioners make good decisions tonight, Father. The prayer to you for those answers to be, to the many questions that so many people have. Father, be with those who are struggling with drugs tonight, that you will bless them and let them know there is a cure, and it is you. Be with us and guide us and help us stay on our path. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Stars on the field of blue, God is strong and ever true. It is with pride and love that we salute the flag of Tennessee.
I'd like to welcome all of our guests tonight and all of our commission. Thank you. It's had a little picture right before we got started for wishing everybody Merry Christmas. That'll be on our website for RCTV, wishing everyone a Merry Christmas. So thank you for showing up just a little bit early. I asked everybody to wear something festive, and only two of us wore something festive. Thank you, Commissioner Reed and Sherino, I think, wore a nice Christmas tie. I forgot, like everybody else. So thank you all for coming. Oh, you wore red, that's right. You got your red shoes on. Rondell's she's got her plaid on. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yours doesn't light up, does it? Yeah, they light up. Okay, we'll go in and get started on item D. Madam Clerk, if you would please call the roll. Roll call. That's what I said. Please call the roll.
Got ahead of myself. Commissioner David Gammon.
Present.
Commissioner Piercy.
Here.
Commissioner Rather.
Here.
Commissioner P.
Here.
Commissioner Cook. Commissioner Buchanan.
Here.
Commissioner Cush. Commissioner Reed. Commissioner Gurley.
Here.
Commissioner Blair. Commissioner Allen.
Here.
Commissioner Stevens.
Here.
Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Virgil Gammon.
Here.
Commissioner Harris. Here. Commissioner Dodd.
Here.
Commissioner Phillips.
Present.
Commissioner McAdoo.
Here.
Commissioner Key.
Here.
Commissioner Gooch. Commissioner Serena.
Yeah.
We have a quorum, 18 present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. We are ready to conduct the business before us for the citizens of Rutherford County. At this point in time, I'd like to call on Chairman Pro Tem Jeff Phillips for approval of the minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've reviewed the minutes from our October meeting. I find them to be in order and move that we dispense with the reading and that be adopted as presented.
Motion for adoption. Have a second from Commissioner Rather and others. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is item F, resolution of appreciation for Dr. Russ Galloway. Call on Public Safety Chairman Pettis Reed, if you're recognized in the well, to read the resolution.
Dr. Galloway, I'd like to ask for you to come forward if you would, and we'd also like to ask their EMS director come forward this time too. Those of you that may not have had the opportunity to meet Dr. Galloway over the years that he has worked with us as our medical director, he's been the one that really, what I would say, he's an individual that stays in the shadows and makes sure that the work that is done by the EMS and our team out there is done correctly and done properly. And he's done an excellent job over these many years. He's done a great job working with Rutherford County to make sure that our people across this county are taken care of. And we appreciate that, and we're just going to read this resolution to tell you how much we do think of you, Dr. Galloway. Whereas Dr. Russ Galloway has served this community well for 27 years while serving as the Rutherford County Emergency Medical Service Medical Director, and whereas he has guided the organization through many changes over the years and in his quiet way has been responsible for growing RCEMS, and whereas Dr. Galloway has been a great advocate for emergency medicine since 1994 and vital in the way we care for our patients, and whereas Dr. Galloway has guided the RCEMS to become the best EMS agency in the state of Tennessee, and whereas Dr. Galloway has demonstrated in countless ways his dedication to the welfare of others and has earned the respect and affection of people from all walks of life and all ages who are proud to call him friend. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners at its regular session on this 10th day of November, 2021, that we hereby extend sincere appreciation to Dr. Russ Galloway for his dedicated service to the citizens of Rutherford County and wish him much success and happiness in all his future endeavors. Be it further resolved that a copy of this resolution of appreciation be forwarded to Dr. Galloway by the clerk of this legislative body. Resolved this 10th day of November, 2021. Mr. Chairman, I so move for its approval.
I have a motion, have a second, without objection, all members on the second. Any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries.
Well, thank you for the kind words. It has just been an honor and a privilege for my career to be serving in this position. It has been a blessing. I have tried to stay, as he said, in my quiet way, out of their way, because the Rutherford County EMS has done a great job and has needed support and maybe a little bit of medical control, but mostly they have always done the right thing, the right way, and like I said, it's just been an honor to be associated with them. Thank you.
Director Hutchins.
Dr. Galloway, on behalf of Rutherford County EMS and myself, we would like for you to accept a little gift from the departments, and just want to thank you for your service and just how loyal you were to the ambulance service, and you've helped us make Rutherford County EMS the best ambulance service in the state, and we're very proud of you.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor.
Okay, thank you.
Members, next you see on the agenda is item G. I had invited Mr. Kenny Bird to come and address us tonight on our current opioid class action lawsuit, just to give us a briefing. As soon as he arrives, wherever we're at an agenda, we can find a break, I'll bring him up front without exception. He's 5 minutes out, so he's coming from Nashville and caught in traffic. Of course, everybody knows that's a problem coming from Nashville. So we'll continue on. It's time for public comments. So at this point in time, we have one speaker tonight, and that is Alexandra Sager. Ms. Sager, she wants to talk on Judge Davenport. Ms. Sager, are you here? If you will, please come forward, and you're recognized at the well. You have 3 minutes, Ms. Sager. And if you want to drop your mask down where you can be heard,
Sure.
you're welcome to.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the commission for letting me speak here for a moment. My main purpose tonight is to call for the resignations of Judge Donna Davenport and Director Lynn Duke in light of the ProPublica report from October. It's my understanding that litigation is currently underway regarding this abuse of power and that officials are disallowed from making public remarks. But if that's not the case, I have to ask what's preventing this commission from publicly condemning what went down at Hobgood and within this county's juvenile justice system for so long. If any of you have commented on the matter, please direct me to these comments. I want to know about them. I've been here since 2016, back home, which is like 5 hours north of here, which is a majority white, majority conservative region. My grandpa was a city commissioner, my other grandpa was a small business owner, and my uncle was in law enforcement, so I'm fairly well acquainted with small town politics, much smaller than this though, and what a last name can do or what a well-placed connection can unlock. So I've got to ask, by not calling for Davenport or Duke's resignation publicly, who's being held accountable and whose interests are being protected, because as of now, it's certainly not black citizens or the families of those who've been traumatized at the hands of the Rutherford County government at that time. When terms like, these are buzzwords, yes, white supremacy or police brutality or systemic racism are used, situations like Hobgood are precisely the sort of examples that these terms refer to. The prolonging of systemic racism or white supremacy takes a village. And white supremacy is not just, it doesn't just impact people of color, but also anyone in poverty or without relative power. To speak on Hobgood and the local juvenile justice system again, the officers could have said, no, we're not doing this. The school administration could have said, no, you're not doing this. The officials and people who worked with Judge Davenport over the years and assessed the public safety reports from Director Duke or overheard jokes about the detention center being a hotel or a business could have said, that's wrong. And some of the numbers reflected in those reports represent kids. Thank you. And none of this is a joke. So just thank you so much again for your time. And that was my purpose, was to call for the resignation. So. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sager. We appreciate your comments tonight. Thank you for coming forward. Next, members, we have, I'll call on Commissioner Reed, if he'll come forward on item I, elections and confirmations. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We'll begin with item 1, the election of our notaries. There's a list of these notaries. You may find these in your iPad. These have already been sent out to you on SharePoint. Mr. Chairman, I move to confirm the election of these individuals as Rutherford County notaries.
Chairman Reed, without objection from the floor, I have a gentleman that lives in my district that would like to be added to this list of notaries, Mark Lee Kent, if we could.
Is it good?
Is that one good?
Clerk's office said it's good to come in from the floor.
Bring one that one.
He says that one has come in.
It is.
It's in.
Is it on the list?
Yeah, so by you asking tonight from the floor, it's legal from the clerk's office opinion, so he can come onto the list.
Thank you. I'll make the motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
You have a motion from Commissioner Piercy on the motion, second from Rather and Sereno on the second. All of those in favor of adding this gentleman and Commissioner Piercy's district to the notary public list signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. He's now on the list. We're back on the original motion. Did we have a second on the motion? Have a second. Commissioner Phillips. All those of adoption of the list signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Chairman.
Item 2, steering would like to confirm the appointment of General Sessions Judicial Commissioner Darren Keller. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion and a second. Commissioner Phillips on the second. Any objection? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
Item 3, steering would like to confirm Tim Holden for School Board Zone 3 vacancy. This is Commission Districts 4, 6, and 7. Mr. Chairman, so move.
Have a motion. We have a second for confirmation for the school board vacancy. Mr. Tim Holden for Districts 4, 6, and 7. Without objection, all those in favor signify by, let's go on the board. I'd feel better about that since it's really kind of an election. Now, you still know, Mr. Holden, you're going to have to come back and run, but this is fulfilling the unexpired term. So, members, cast your ballot.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Madam Clerk, record the vote.
18 yes.
Motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Holden.
Beginning with item 4, steering wishes to confirm Caleb Spearing and Gary Wisniewski to the PBA terms to expire January 2026. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion. We've got a second from Harris and McAdoo. Any objection? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
Item 5, I wish to announce one vacancy for Public Building Authority, or the PBA, term to expire January 2026. Item 6, Mr. Chairman, I wish to announce 4 vacancies to the Agricultural Advisory Board. The 4 positions must be filled by 1 farm woman, 1 farmer, and 2 county commissioners, terms to expire December 2023. And steering would like to announce 1 vacancy to the Community Care of Rutherford County Board, or the CCRC, term to expire December 2024. Mr. Chairman, this concludes our business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next, we'll move to item J, resolution to approve the consent agenda. Chairman Pro Tem Phillips.
Thank you, Mayor Ketron. I've reviewed the consent agenda and agree that all those items are appropriate without objection or without a request to remove an item for further discussion. I'll move that the consent agenda be approved.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Second, Commissioner Rather and others will be on the board on the consent agenda. Members, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote, Madam Clerk.
18 yes.
Motion passes. It's not quite 6:30 yet for our public hearing. Mr. Sandlin, is Mr. Byrd here yet? Driving around looking for a parking space.
I didn't last but 6 months.
I guess we will go ahead and get into reports by standing committees under item M. We still have about 7 or 8 minutes, and then Chairman P will stop and go back right at 6:30 for our public hearings, but we can go ahead and start taking care of business from your committee. Recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item M1A, is some money from unassigned fund balance to cover a shortfall in a budget from the appraiser's office. And be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the general fund be amended as follows: for reappraisals, a decrease in an unassigned fund balance of $20,000 and increase in expenditures for data process services of $20,000. Second is from the county clerk's office. If you recall, we voted, I think it was last month, to add the $4 to the cost of a vehicle. Anyway, we have to do some changes in the software, and to cover that, and there's a cost. Increased expenditures for data processing services, $18,000, and a decrease in unassigned fund balance of $18,000. And this is for an upgrade for that $4 fee added to the registration. Resolved this 10th day of November 2021, Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion, have a second from Commissioner Dodd. Questions or objections will be on the board. Members, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote, Madam Clerk.
18 yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to take a little leeway and skip to item M1C. We might be here all night on the other amendment that we're looking at. And I'll go ahead and read this resolution. Whereas Rutherford County has determined that it is in the best interest to perform an employee salary survey and benefit study, and whereas Burris, Thompson and Associates, BTA, has provided a cost of $22,675 for the salary survey and a cost of $2,250 for the benefit study. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor be authorized to execute an agreement with BTA, a copy of the same being attached hereto Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, to perform an employee salary survey and benefit study. Resolved this 10th day of November 2021. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion. Is there a second? Commissioner Phillips and Commissioner Gammon on the second. Without objection, members will be on the board. Please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change their vote, you may do so now.
Madam Clerk, record the vote.
18 yes.
Motion carries. Chairman.
Okay, we've got a few minutes, so we'll get into this. Hopefully we can.
You want to hang on just a second and let Mr. Byrd?
Let's do, because this may take a while.
Yes, sir. Mr. Byrd just walked in. Mr. Byrd, if you'll, without objection, members will go into recess and allow our attorney, who's representing us on the opioid class action lawsuit. Mr. Byrd, if you'll come to the well, you're recognized. Now, members, what we're going to be doing, this is strictly tonight for Mr. Byrd, is for informational purposes only. You know, we've been involved in this lawsuit nationwide with Big Pharma, other drug companies. So he'll brief us tonight and then be prepared next month at the December meeting. We'll come back with a resolution that I have to submit to the state of Tennessee after this commission gives us permission to submit that resolution upon being voted upon. And I think we have a deadline of January 2nd, 3rd, somewhere in that neighborhood, right after the first of the year. We have to have that in, so we'll need to do that. So, Mr. Byrd, if you'll just brief us on where we are at.
Sure. So let me just take a few minutes. First, let me tell you who I am. My name is Kenny Byrd, and I'm with the law firm of Leaf Cabraser. Several years ago, maybe a mayor ago or probably a few commissioners here and there ago, you all authorized us to initiate litigation against the opioid industry, like you've seen, I think, happening around the country in a lot of counties and cities and states, to try to recover some funds that you all have had to experience on the front lines of the opioid crisis here in Rutherford County. We have worked closely with the mayor and others to sort of continue that litigation and press forward. Just so you know, I work in the Nashville office of our law firm. We're a national firm, but I work in the Nashville office. And I grew up in Nashville. I used to recall the days when you could make it from Nashville to here in about 35 minutes. But a couple wrecks and some rush hours and a few years later, it took me a little bit longer. So I apologize for that. But what we'd like to do tonight, and I certainly can take some questions. I want to be careful to not, get too far. I guess if we get too far into real questions about my back and forth advice with the mayor, we might need to move into some type of executive session. But I think we can sort of do the broad strokes. We want to try to avoid that. I think I can be public about most things and give you what you need to know. There's several defendants in this litigation across the country. You've probably read some articles from time to time on some of them going to trials. All the litigation got moved into the Northern District of Ohio in what's called multi-district litigation. Judge Polsner there has sort of run the litigation and pushed far forward. There have been some settlement discussions with various defendants. You may have heard of Purdue, which is a big pharma company. They went into bankruptcy to try to avoid some of this, but they are on the hook and going to be, we are on to them and they're on the hook, and there's a settlement being initiated there that many of the counties, including Rutherford, will get some money from. There's the Indo defendant, which we're also looking at, and there's several other defendants. But where the permission we need tonight, or what I want to brief you on tonight, are really four defendants, and they're called the distributors. So they're sort of the main distributors of opioids across the country. It is the McKesson Corporation, Cardinal Health, which is, I think, has some, some of them right in this sort of area, but they're across the country as well. AmerisourceBergen, and then you've heard of Johnson & Johnson, which is a pretty big company. And so it's three of them. We call it the big three distributors, but really Johnson & Johnson is also coming into this settlement to give some more money as well. They call it the big distributor settlement. I think this will be a substantial part of what Rutherford County ultimately gets, but we still have a lot of other defendants, some in bankruptcy. We still have Walgreens and pharmacies, various pharmacies that could also be on the hook down the road as we continue litigation. So this isn't necessarily going to be all the money, but this is going to be some of the money. And as far as when we get into the actual amounts, it's very hard to nail down exactly just from these 3 to 4 defendants what exactly you're going to get in this county. That's something that we can talk about some with the mayor and further as needed at the next meeting or whatnot. But what's important is this is a $26 billion settlement from these 4 defendants across the country. And you ask, how is that going to be divided among the states and the counties and whatnot? I don't know if you recall, but there used to be, back a few decades ago, there was a lot of tobacco litigation. And I think in that litigation, what happened a little bit unfortunately was that the states took a lot of the money and kind of left to the counties with not near as much, I think. We wanted to avoid that here. So we have been working closely with the state attorneys generals, sometimes cooperating, sometimes being a little bit adversarial. But we wanted to work with them to make sure that we drove up the percentage that actually goes into your pockets so that it doesn't just sit at the state. And the reason for that is you all are on the front lines dealing with it. Mayor Ketron has been, frankly, extremely valuable in those dealings and in what has happened somewhat in the state legislature, because there was some moves to try to restrict the amount of money that you all would get from the settlement, the counties and cities, rather than and make it go all through the state. And then there was legislation that we sort of pushed, but also that Mayor Ketron worked really hard as well to make sure that got done the right way. And now it's going to look more like you're going to get about 40, right at 40% of those funds. And what that's going to mean is, in broad stroke numbers, the $26 billion, right, for the country, all across the country, Tennessee will probably get a little bit over between 2 and 3% of that, of those funds, which means Tennessee's going to get in excess of $600 million, but it's going to be paid over 18 years. So it takes time. You're not going to get just one chunk of money. It's going to be paid over 18-year period. And of that, we have guaranteed that 15% of the funds will go directly to the counties, where you don't have any strings, really. You get to sort of spend that money as you all see fit. And that is a big win.
That's general fund money.
General fund money, that's right. And then there is a lot of the money, the main portion of the $26 billion is going to what we call abatement, but it's going to be targeted at abatement opportunities and abatement programs to try to curb the crisis. So it's not necessarily, hey, here's money, from all the past stuff, as much as we want to spend money to stop the addiction and stop the crisis and address it on the front lines where it matters. So of that, you're going to get, roughly 70% of the money is going to go to abatement programs. 35% of that 70 is going to go to the counties. So it'll be a little bit more restricted because you're going to have to run that through abatement programs that you have. But it's still going to be money that you all can get. There's going to be a trust fund that is set up for that money to go into at the state level, and you're going to be able to, the counties will get 35% of that, which means a significant number here in Rutherford County because of population and whatnot that will work out pretty well for you. The reason it's being put into a trust fund, just so you know, is so the state legislature can't go, oh, now we have all this money, we want to pass something to do something different with it. It's going to have to stay in a trust fund, so if you have future Tennessee legislatures, they can't do anything with it over these 18 years. It's going to still be in the fund for you all to use for abatement. So that's one of the reasons it does that.
Or governors.
Yeah, or governors, that's right. Governors, legislatures, whoever would mess with that money. So, you actually also could get some money above that, because we have ensured that local governments will be able to have a seat at that table. There's going to be a commission that will run that trust. And so in addition to the 35% that counties like you can get, you're going to be eligible, depending on what programs you have, to try to apply for the rest of those funds too, or for some more of those funds. So you can actually get over and above that. It's hard for us to really get down to exact dollars that you're going to see, till everything's finalized. But what we need tonight, and that's sort of hopefully it's a long-winded version, I feel that's kind of the public things I can say, is that unlike some of the other settlements, what they want, what the defendants want to get this is what's called a critical mass of counties and subdivisions across the country that agree to this settlement. Ultimately for Tennessee in excess of $600 million, and then the divisions the way they are. And in order to do that, they want to have the mayors and executives, in this case Mayor Ketron here in Rutherford County, to be able to sort of register the county for the settlement and then sign the willingness to be a part of that agreement and what would be the release language for the defendants.
So, Mr. Byrd, we need to get into our public hearing.
Okay.
We're a few minutes late. So this was tonight just for information purposes only. Next month, we'll have a resolution prepared and voted on. I think that's what will satisfy the lawsuit is what you're requesting.
That will do it, and then that'll give him the permission to sign up.
Okay, and you'll work with Nick, and we'll be prepared for the next meeting in December to everybody in agreement on that, and we'll move forward with the resolution. Yeah, thank you. You drove so far.
Letting me come in a little bit late. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Appreciate you driving so far. Stop and get something to eat on the way out. We need some tax money. All right, thank you. All right, members, it's time for our public hearing. We're a few minutes late. Mr. DeMasi, if you would please come forward. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. We have 3 public hearings for your consideration tonight. The first is for property located at 2762 Las Casas Pike. The existing zoning is residential medium density, or RM, and they're asking for a planned unit development for a residential subdivision. They are proposing to develop 108 single-family detached units on this property. All units will be constructed with primary materials of fiber, cement board, and engineered wood products. Secondary materials could include stucco, metal panels, and masonry products. Architectural renderings have been included, as well as other information in the pattern book, which is included on your iPads tonight. There was a neighborhood meeting held on this particular application as per our zoning code back in June of this year. There were several property owners who did show up, along with staff and the development team. Most of the discussion that was had at that meeting involved the type of development being proposed, traffic and drainage concerns. The Planning Commission has considered this on a couple different occasions, deferred 2 different times, once in August and also once in September. In August, the application was deferred for additional information to be placed into the pattern book. The applicant also made several changes to the development after hearing the comments at the Planning Commission. For instance, one of the changes, they were proposing some rear-loaded product on a private alleyway. They did remove those. They reduced the number of lots from 116 to 108, which also reduced the density of the development. They added a minimum number of bedrooms for each unit was 3, and also a minimum square footage for each home, which was 1,700 square feet. And then they also added some off-street parking to the community park area. It was deferred a second time in September to get additional information on the drainage of the project, specifically regarding sinkholes on the property and to the east where the site will drain. Information was received, and I'll get to that here in just a moment when I finish my comments. Access to the property, of course, will be on Las Casas Pike. The applicant did submit a traffic study to staff. Recommendations have also been included with your agenda packets on your iPads. Turn lanes are being shown at both access points along at Las Casas Pike. Of course, those will require TDOT approval since it is a state road. Landscaping, they are proposing the open space that meet our requirements. The county does require a minimum of 10% open space in planned developments. They are showing approximately 5.5 acres of open space, with about 2 acres of that being considered usable as defined by our ordinance. Again, I would call your attention to the pattern book for additional details on that. Most of the questions at the October Planning Commission meeting had to deal with the drainage of the property. Our county engineer, Mike Hughes, did feel more comfortable with the project after receiving additional information. They did some modeling on the project, modeling that would typically not be done until you get to the construction drawing phase of the application or of the development itself. But after reviewing that information, our engineer did feel satisfied that what they're showing right now will work. Now, they still have a lot more work to do even if this is approved tonight. They will have to submit, of course, preliminary plan for Planning Commission consideration, and then the more detailed construction drawings, which would go into a lot more detail as far as the drainage on the site. So after discussion, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a 9-to-1 vote, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Are there any questions for Mr. DeMasi? Commissioner P.
Doug, if the state were to deny turn lanes, I assume we could deny approval of this.
Well, that would be part of their application as displayed in their pattern book. So yes, now I will say that TDOT's been a lot better working with localities about turn lanes over the last several years. I don't necessarily anticipate that happening. So
I'd be surprised if it does, but I just want to make it plain, and I've talked to these developers about the drainage. I've also talked to them about the turning lanes there, and, that was one of the things that, I myself, to lean my support, would have to have.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Mr. DeMasi? Seeing none, then I'll call the Rutherford County Commission meeting into recess to hold a public hearing on this request. Our public hearing is now in session. Anyone desiring to speak for or against the issue, if you would please come forward, state your name, your address, if you're for or against the proposed request. Good evening. Again, if you would recognize yourself, tell us who you are and your name and address, please, sir, and you're recognized.
Thank you. Mayor and Commissioners, I'm Jack Parker with Catalyst Design Group, located at 1524 Williams Drive in Murfreesboro. I am the civil engineer of record on this project, and I think Doug has done a good job of providing the details of the development. I will say that the purpose of this application is to create a specific design development rather than just going with the current RM zoning. We could, as zoned, have a density of up to 2.9 units per acre, but rather than attempt to go with the regular density, we're proposing a little bit different product. We've worked with CUD to make sure that we have all the appropriate soils areas to support these lots, and are looking to create a development, a community that folks can enjoy on a pedestrian level and have gathering spaces for family events. There's sidewalks on both sides of the street throughout. There's connections between the public kind of community open space and the clubhouse that will have a swimming pool. We've provided specific architectural elements that are part of quality communities that Elmington Residential is currently developing in other communities around Middle Tennessee. We've worked with Mike Hughes on just developing and understanding the drainage patterns of this existing property and addressing concerns about how that can be handled. So I believe we have presented a quality product and development for your consideration, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that anybody has.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Anyone else desiring to speak for or against this issue? Seeing no one come forward, I declare the public hearing closed and Rutherford County Board of Commissioners back into session. Is there a motion? Commissioner P.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept this proposal with the conditions placed on them from Planning Commission. And I do want to reiterate, one of those requirements will be turning lanes from both ends.
Thank you, Commissioner P. Commissioner Serino? Are you seconding? Got a second, Commissioner Serino. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. DeMasi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Our second application tonight is by Steve Massey, located at 8411 Sims Road. They're asking for rezoning from a residential low density to agricultural residential. Information provided by the applicant states they would like to operate a home-based dog training and puppy sales business. In your staff report, I put a little bit of the particulars on there about the business. I'm not going to get into that just a whole lot, simply for the fact that, and I'll go into a little more detail later, is the zoning change will not approve the business. That's something, there's an additional step that they will have to go through for that. But I will call your attention to the staff report for their the parameters that they're looking to operate under. This use, especially the boarding elements, defined as a kennel, which is classified as animal care and veterinarian services in our county's zoning ordinance. It's not allowed as either a minor or a major home-based business, nor is it allowed in the RL district, which the property is currently zoned. However, it is allowed by special exception in the agricultural residential zone. So if this is approved tonight, they will make an application to the Board of Zoning Appeals in order to get approval for the business, which will entail another public hearing. They'll have more ability to place different conditions upon the property. Some of those conditions could involve additional parking. It could involve some reasonable conditions on any screening, buffering that they think may be necessary, or anything that has to do with any of the performance standards. This is a fairly large piece of property. The building that they're looking to construct is actually further into the back of the property. It's surrounded by very large tracts. but the Board of Zoning Appeals, again, would have the ability to place conditions upon the specifics of the business should they feel it's necessary. Staff did feel that the rezoning of AR is consistent with the recommendations of our comprehensive plan, and just to reiterate, just because the zoning is approved, however, the business does not approved tonight with that. So there was very little discussion on this item, and following the public hearing, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote, and I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Heard the explanation. Any questions for Mr. Damasi? From the commissioners. Any questions? Seeing none, I'll call the Rutherford County Commission meeting into recess to hold a public hearing on this request. The public hearing is now in session. Is there anyone desiring to speak for or against? If you would, please come forward, state your name, your address, if you're for or against the proposed request. Seeing no one coming forward, I declare the public hearing closed. Rutherford County Board of Commissioners back into session. Is there a motion? Commissioner
Mr.
Buchanan.
Chairman, I went out to the property. Mr. Massey has a beautiful piece of property out there, and where he's going to be situated at, I feel that it's going to be conducive to what he's trying to get done. And I would like to make a motion to approve, subject to any staff comments.
I have a commissioner from Commissioner Buchanan. Is there a second? Commissioner P. on the second. Any further discussion or objection? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Damasi.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Our final rezoning request tonight is by Mr. Jewel Hale. This is located along Elam Road. The existing zoning, it's actually two parts of the zoning. Part of it's zoned residential medium density, or RM, and the remaining is zoned office professional. They are asking for office professional for the remaining part of the site. Just as a way of a little bit of background and history on this, a portion of the subject property, about 3 acres, was rezoned to what was called services back in 2007 under our older zoning code, and granted a conditional use permit for storage units. I have included a copy of the conditional use permit in your agenda packets for your consideration and reference. Site plan was also approved by the Planning Commission back in November of 2007 to construct a self-storage facility, but no construction ever began. The site plan and the conditional use permit since that time have long since expired. The current owner would like to zone the remaining property, office professional, to construct a larger self-storage facility with areas for vehicle parking and storage like boats, RVs, and those kind of things. I have included a concept plan with your agenda packets, again, for your reference. It's not a planned development, so they're not locked into that, but I'll at least give you an idea of how they are wanting to proceed with their development. Self-storage facilities are allowed in the office professional zone by special exception, so it's not a by right situation similar to the last application we just considered. If you did approve the zoning and they wanted to move forward with this kind of a development, they would have to go before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the applicant is aware of that. Access will be along Elam Road. Their concept plan does show proposed buildings and, again, an area for vehicular parking and storage. Number of required parking spots, design, access, et cetera, will all be determined by the requirements of the zoning ordinance and demonstrated on an engineered site plan should this application be approved, and again, BZA approval granted for that business. We are aware, and I wanted to just at least make this known to the County Commission, that there have been some conversations between the City of Murfreesboro and the applicant regarding the potential extension of what's called Distribution Drive, which is immediately to the east of this property, through the subject property we're talking about tonight to Elam Road, and I did attach a little diagram in your packets as well for your reference. The reason for this connection is to provide additional access points to Joe B. Jackson from Elam Road and to potentially reduce congestion at the intersection of Elam Road and Joe B. Jackson Parkway. We are, as staff, county staff, generally supportive of that plan, and again, we have made the applicant's design engineer aware of those discussions. This is not something that can be conditioned upon approval since this is not a planned development, but we just wanted to make sure that all parties were aware that as this site continues through development process, that we do expect to see accommodations made for this extension. Properties that are located in the office professional district are generally required to provide a type 1 buffer adjacent to residentially zoned property. The site is adjacent to multifamily zoning and light industrial zoning properties both in the city. Buffering and screening would not be required along those property lines, but would be required to the north, which is still zoned for single family residential use, or RM. The BZA also could require additional buffering should they feel it necessary if he went forward with a mini warehouse type facility. And being being that this is a commercial site, performance standards would also need to be met. There wasn't much discussion on this item at the Planning Commission. They did have some questions about our comfort with this being office professional zone as opposed to a planned development. As staff, we did say that we were comfortable with this request. Office professional is more of a restricted zone as opposed to, say, in some of the commercial zones, the range of uses is a lot less. So with that, the Planning Commission did recommend approval by a unanimous vote. And again, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Tomasi from the commission? Seeing none, then I'll call the Rutherford County Commission meeting into recess to hold a public hearing on this request. Public hearing is now in session. Anyone desiring to speak for or against the issue, if you would please come forward. State your name, your address, and if you're for or against their proposed request. Seeing no one coming forward, I declare the public hearing closed and Rutherford County Board of Commissioners back into session. Is there a motion? Commissioner McAdoo.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that this be approved. And this site is located directly in the commercial area. And by approving this, that it will be less traffic going in and out if we got storage houses. And nobody in this area complained. I went out there and the property owner adjacent to it did ask questions about the electrical hookup, but I think they worked that out because they bring up no objections to it. So I'll make a motion that it be approved.
I have a motion for approval. Commissioner Dodd on the second. Any further discussion or objection? Seeing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries.
Thank you. Just a real quick announcement, and then I'm going to ask Planning Commission Chairman, Mr. Jeff Phillips, to make a few comments as well. You've probably all received some correspondence from Mr. Michael Skipper from the GNRC, who's working on our comprehensive plan regarding the joint meeting between the County Commission and the Planning Commission for next Wednesday in this room starting at 5 o'clock. There'll be some introductions and a presentation, and then probably some breakout activities that he would like to do. So we're going to be in here for probably a couple hours. I just wanted to remind you of all that. But also, Mr. Phillips would like to make a few comments, so I'll go ahead and, with no objections, call him up to the podium to make some comments about the necessity of this update.
Without objection, Chairman Pro Tem Phillips, you're recognized.
Thank you, Doug. I'm sure some of you were wondering why we're calling a special session for next Wednesday, the 17th. And I just wanted to mention the importance of this meeting and what it means for the vision of our community for years to come. Our last plan was adopted in 2011. Long-term range plans should be updated every 5 to 10 years, especially for high-growth counties. The 2020 census, as all of you know, Rutherford County's population was 341,468 people, and it's up a little over 30% from 262,000 over the last 10 years. And growth, of course, is not anticipated to slow down. Some estimates have the county passing Hamilton County as far as population by the end of this decade and surpassing Knox County within the next 20 years, which would make Rutherford County the third largest county in the state of Tennessee. The real purpose, in my mind, for us updating our comprehensive plan would be for us to come to a consensus as a community as to what we want our county to look like and develop a plan so that we can better visualize together in coordination with cities what our county should look like as we go forward. To me, that's the real purpose of our comprehensive plan. We've heard time and time and time again, every month, from citizens that are here complaining about the development that's going on and us, maybe some citizens moving out into the rural areas of the county and are concerned about the type of developments that's going on in all areas of the county. Our comprehensive plan, our updated comprehensive plan, hopefully will address some of those citizens' concerns, and once again, they will have input as to what this comprehensive plan will end up being. So next Wednesday, in my mind, is a very important meeting, and that's the reason it's a special call meeting in conjunction with our Planning Commission. We should be mindful of this meeting, attend it with an open mind, and as we go forward next year with the development of this comprehensive plan, your input, of course, will continue to be sought, and we, as commissioners, hopefully will have the opportunity to adopt our new comprehensive plan with public input before this commission term expires next August. That is my goal as the leader of the Planning Commission. It'll be at 5 o'clock. I should have mentioned that, Carol, thank you. But it'll be at 5 o'clock next Wednesday on the 17th. Doug, did you have a few comments you wanted to make?
No, sir, I think we're covered.
Very good.
Thank you, Chairman Pro Tem, Mr. DeMasi. Please put that on your calendars. Try to make every attempt that you possibly can. This only comes around about once every 10 years, so we ask you to please try to attend if at all possible. Next, we will move back to Commissioner P. We'll take up item MB. This is dealing with employee premium pay from the ARC fund.
We have talked about this for several months. It's came through budget the other night. We had a resolution there, and we still, unfortunately, get conflicting information. I think, Lisa, you had a call today that brought into question availability, justification, this kind of thing. At any rate, I asked her to put together, and you'll see this on your desk, this is a list of employees, and you'll see this in the resolution as I get to reading, that actually are 100% of their of the residing state's average annual wage for all occupations. Basically, they would go over, and they would be exempt from getting this unless we come up with a justification. And I've got a suggestion of what we may do, and there's also some other questions that have been brought up, and I say recently, as recent as today, and Lisa can elaborate. I want to read what came out of our budget committee, and I'll make a suggestion. I'll let you know right now. The total amount to pay everyone is $4,270,485. That will pay everyone with no exemptions, no justifications, I mean, across the board, except for elected officials. They are not in that amount. But my suggestion would be to have our finance director feel a little more comfortable about this, and us, because if we make a mistake on this and we pay people that the state or federal government deem illegible or not able to get this, then we're going to have to pay for that out of the general fund. As you know, this is grant money that's not coming directly out of their general fund. So what my resolution at the end would be that the budget committee, after we pass this, will be given the authority at our next budget meeting on December the 9th to come up with the justifications or denials of this list or any other that may be deemed questionable. Now, like I said, what I'm fixing to read covers everybody. I didn't get a chance to talk to our budget members about this. That's a heavy load on your shoulders, but I feel like that's part of our job, and I don't feel like it's our job to put this off on our finance director to alone make this kind of decision. But having said that, I guess it'd probably be best to read this first, and then we'll let everybody make their comments there. A lot of this is self-explanatory. Resolution, whereas the American Rescue Plan of 2021 provides for premium pay to eligible workers performing essential work during the COVID-19 public health emergency, and whereas premium pay is an amount up to $13 per hour that is paid to an eligible worker in addition to wages or remunerable to the eligible workers otherwise receives for all work performed by the eligible worker during COVID-19 public health emergency. Such amount may not exceed $25,000 with respect to any single eligible worker. And whereas providing premium pay to eligible workers responds to such workers by helping address the disparity between the critical services and risks taken by essential workers and the relatively low compensation they tend to receive in exchange. If premium pay would increase a worker's pay above $78,255 on an annual basis, the county must provide the U.S. Department of Treasury and make publicly available a written justification of how the premium pay is responsive to workers performing essential work during the public health emergency. And whereas an eligible worker is needed to maintain continuity of operations of essential critical infrastructure sectors and additional sectors as each chief executive officer of a county may designate as critical to protect the health and well-being of the residents. And whereas essential work means work that one is not performed while teleworking from a residence, and two, it involves regular in-person interaction with patients, the public, or co-workers of the individual that is performing the work, regular physical handling of items that are handled by or are to be handled by patients, the public, or co-workers of the individual that is performing the work. And whereas the recommendation from the Budget, Finance, and Investment Committee is to provide premium pay to currently employed county general and highway payroll employees performing essential work if the premium pay would not increase the employee's total pay above $78,255 on an annual basis unless justification is provided. Whereas the premium pay shall be $2,000 net pay for full-time employees and $1,000 net pay for part-time employees that were employed on or before March the 15th, 2021, and 1/2 of the aforementioned amount for employees after March 15th, 2021. And whereas the premium pay shall not be paid to any elected official, therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that premium pay in accordance with the American Rescue Plan of 2021 be issued to employees in accordance with the recommendations contained herein, and additionally that the special revenue fund be amended as follows to appropriate funds for the premium pay. And you can see the list there. I'm not going to read those numbers to you. The bottom line is the total amount, again, is $4,270,485 without any exemptions or justifications. Resolved this 10th day of November 2021. Mr. Chairman, I so move, and I also add to that this be sent to the Budget Committee to be reviewed on the 9th, giving them the authority to justify any exemptions at that time. That's so moved.
So we have a proposed motion before us. I need a second for the purposes of discussion. I need a second.
I'll second that.
Got a second?
And I'd like to start the discussion.
Al, the floor is open for discussion. Have a motion and a second. You're recognized, Commissioner Gurley.
Thank you. When I first brought all this up months ago, the idea was primarily to help those employees that are on the lower end that have really been impacted and hurting. We've received a list of those people who would be questionable. I really don't know why we would want to put ourselves in the position of being audited and scrutinized. I think from what information I've been given, it is very questionable. Also, the number we're talking about, if they're going to get more than $78,255, they're doing pretty good right now, in my opinion. And I really think that instead of subjecting ourselves to having to hire financial and legal and expend a whole bunch of money on justifying this, that we need to just exclude these people. I think they're in pretty good shape right now. I'm seeing numbers that start out at in 75,000 or something and go on up to as high as 158,000. I think those people will make it, but we need to give it to the rest of our employees, and we don't need to have it hanging over our heads as to whether we're going to be scrutinized, audited, questioned, and then we have to go back and hire lawyers and accountants and so on to explain all this and spend more money, which will come out of the general fund. So I would like to offer an amendment. The amendment will exclude the last portion that Chairman P made, and that we simply decide tonight to exclude these people from this action.
So you've heard the motion on the amendment to exclude the list that Commissioner Gurley referred to, and also to delete the last comments that Chairman P made on his original motion. So we have an amendment before us. I need a second. Amendment motion dies for lack of second. Commissioner Gammon.
I'm just going to throw a bone out here for a second because we're going to be pulling teeth. This was supposed to be for everybody. That's the deal. Here's the other thing. You know, I can understand deeply Commissioner Gurley's thought that somebody makes a certain amount of money, but you've got a lot of people in this thing, and I'll just go back. I look at paramedics that are ranking. I see lieutenants, captains, these kind of people. And the easiest thing to do is not worry about audits. Don't worry about somebody coming in and hiring an attorney. This has been done over the years, in particular to where I'm with your sheriff's office. I'm not the sheriff, but I'm used to sheriff's office because I know the positions and I know other departments' positions. You got positions that haven't been employed for months, 5 or 6 months. You're talking about less than $200,000 to pay these people. Now, if you want to set a guideline on what the amount is, if it's over $100,000, you don't get it, 95 or something, then so be it. But you can pull this money out of the budget, line item transfer, and do this. It can be done. It's been done when I was a chief deputy down there. So you don't have to worry about pulling it out of something that's not there. And the next budget year, those positions, again, will be funded fully, again, on top of that. So that's an option, I'm saying, without worrying about, you know, confusion, without worrying about budget issues, because I guarantee you that when you're talking about under $200,000, there's that much money right now, even if a lot of people's not going to be hired after January probably. So the money's there if you take it out of that, and it's not going to damage anybody.
Comments on the original motion. I've got, I think I had Rodkey and then Mr. Commissioner Stevens next. Commissioner Key.
Thank you, sir. So speaking of the money that's available, it looks like on into the agenda we're looking to rescind the offer for the State Farm building. At one time it seemed like that money was the same batch of money that would be used in this circumstance. Is that correct? Can we elaborate on that perhaps?
Yes, sir. originally, so the first tranche of money that we received from the ARP funds was $32 million. We'll get another $32 million this coming June of '22. So the first tranche was going to be dedicated to, that you all authorized back in July to make the offer of intent to purchase the State Farm building for $25,500,000. Also kept in reserve a couple of million to take care of FF&E and transferring the 2 dispatches between the PSAP 1, PSAP 2 from sheriff as a PSAP 1 ambulance, PSAP 2, and move that all into one location. So as reported the other night at budget, because didn't meet with the landlord until last week, the same day as budget, did in my meeting with Mr. Mel Schultz from Phoenix with the company who owns the State Farm building and leases it back, we had anticipated that with our 25.5 and State Farm's 24.5 cobbled together, we could make a letter of intent from both to purchase the building. They wanted, State Farm wanted out from underneath their 7 years remaining on their lease, and our 25.5 would have satisfied the company. Mr. Schultz said that he felt like that his other 2 partners who own, they're a large real estate magnate across the country, felt that the building of State Farm was worth between $80 and $90 million. And at that point in time at lunch, I told him we were out. So that frees up that money. We're back to, and you'll see later in the report from property management, a resolution to withdraw our letter of intent that frees up that money instead of having to wait till June for the second tranche that comes in from the U.S. Treasury. It now moves it to the forefront. So now the commission has the ability to take this $4 million, we finally were able to crunch the numbers and take care of our county employees now instead of next June. And then also to move forward and pull the public health and safety buildings forward instead of just 1, probably move forward on 4, and we'll discuss that and when public safety gives a report. So now you're looking at $4 million, a little over $4 million to give the employees the benefit. We are in the middle of our, it is not the final rule. We are in the interim final rule. Federal government told us that we would have the final rule to tell us exactly what we could spend it on in September, and now it's been kicked to December the 15th. I was with the comptroller in Nashville with the mayor's caucus today, and he said, I don't know if it's going to, the feds will give us a final rule by that time or not. But Ms. Nolan was also on and Ms. Stevenson was on a webinar talking with the company that the comptroller has contracted with to work with counties and municipalities to tell us what to do with this money. So that's why it's been all over the board. Some it states in there that if it's over 150 of the 150% of what the
average
labor
median.
After the labor board of state board of labor determines what the salary is, then it nullifies that employee from getting it, right? All right, you take it from what you heard, because I disagree with what you've heard.
Okay.
And so this is real confusing.
And I'll try to make it not confusing. Rutherford County received our funds directly. A lot of the municipalities are receiving their funds through the state. So the state has hired, the company is Horn, and we're very familiar with them because they are the company that the county is working through with our emergency rental assistance program. So the players are not new to us. But the presentation was from the Tennessee Department of Finance Administration, and it is guidance for these municipalities on how to spend. So, to Commissioner Gammon's point, and to your point, one of the rules is if an employee makes more than 150% of the average or the median salary of the county or state, whichever is higher, and it has a specific place where you go to, if adding this premium, it doesn't preclude them from receiving it. It's just the next step is that you have to justify to Treasury and to the public, meaning we would have to just have our justification on our website to justify to the public why those individuals that we've identified should receive this additional funds. Sorry. So on that piece of it, if, you know, we want everybody to get it, but you got to get back to what was the funding for. And when it talks, right before it talks about that, it talks about, I thought I had all my little stars there, is providing funds for the priority is for those people paid the least amount. Those should be the priority that we're taking care of, that is they're at the heightened risk of being out in the public and are the least able to afford the ramifications of catching COVID. Okay, so that's one thing. It's not, you can pay it, you have to justify to Treasury and put it on public forum to let them know. The other point that came out today is, and it's best for me to just, the words that kept coming is, one, is that we can't just have a blanket statement that this applies to everybody. It applies to the essential, critical infrastructure sectors. And there is a list of the essential, critical infrastructure sectors. The law allows the chief executive to add other sectors than what is identified, but it has to, so long as those additional sectors are deemed critical to protect the health and well-being of residents. But we can't have a blanket. It applies to everybody. That's what I was saying and coming back to, is that we need to be able to justify every sector that we've got in there and be able to provide that to y'all of why we're paying them. It's just, we cannot say it's everybody.
Well, so we've been saying that the language is in there that the chief executive officer can determine who is essential. The language is in there. We couldn't find it a few moments ago. And as long as we can justify the health and well-being of citizens, you know, it also says facing, what was?
Public facing.
Public facing.
You have to show through a detailed narrative how these employees were in fact public facing, dealing directly with the public, and did they face an increased risk to their health and to do this critical work.
So I used the example at budget the other night, Ted Beatty's office downstairs. Okay, are you public facing if you got a piece of plexiglass in front of you that's got a gap underneath it, or somebody coughs? This is an invisible virus. I think everybody's susceptible to that, in my opinion. Now, if you touch a piece of paper, it also talks about, is it one piece of paper or a whole stack of paper that you've touched it and it put the virus on it? this is so broad. You know, I think the commission needs to take a direction, Mr. Chairman, either tonight or wait till December and to the next meeting and let us ferret that out. But I'd like to hear from Ms. Stevenson. She listened as well today. If without objection, let her come up, and she's found out something late this afternoon as well. Without objection, could we have Ms. Stevenson, if you would, please come up? Who else was on the?
We had Carrie Clark.
Carrie Clark was on the.
That was one of the questions. Would clerks who work with glass partitions separating them from the public but handling paperwork from the public qualify as risking their health? The answer, potentially, but the justifications and narrative must be detailed to show the risk to their health from being public-facing.
Sure. Ms. Stevenson.
So thank you. Lisa invited me to the webinar today, and it was very informational. After I got off of the webinar, I wanted to look to see what the federal government was saying for the utilization of the money. So the state is interpreting based on what they found from the federal rule. So I pulled the interim final rule off of the U.S. Treasury Department's website, and one of the things that I think, I'm not an attorney, but a wise attorney told me, what does it literally say? Whenever you're reading a document, what does it literally say? And so I think where the confusion is people are saying the essential critical infrastructure sectors, and when I read this final rule, it's talking about of the country. What are the critical? Because it talks about restaurant workers, food production, but government is one of the essential sectors of the critical infrastructure. And if you'll humor me for just a minute, I printed these, I pulled these off. So when it talks specifically about premium pay, it says a worker, it says section 602G2 and 603G2 define eligible worker to mean those workers needed to maintain continuity of operations of essential critical infrastructure sectors and additional sectors as each governor of a state or territory or tribal government may designate as critical to protect the health and well-being of the residents of the state, territory, or government. It says this rule incorporates this definition and provides a list of industries recognized as essential critical infrastructure sectors. So when I was listening to the webinar and it kept talking about the critical infrastructure sectors, I wanted to see what that was. And that's where it talks about who those would be: health care, public health and safety, child care, education, sanitation, transportation, food production, among others noted. And then it says, as provided under sections, the chief executive of each recipient has discretion to add additional sectors to this list so long as additional sectors are deemed critical to protect the health and well-being of residents. So then it has a reference at the bottom, and I went to see what that reference was, and it says eligible workers needed to maintain continuity of operations of essential critical infrastructure, include health care, emergency response, sanitation, disinfection, and cleaning work, maintenance work, grocery stores, restaurants, food production, food delivery, pharmacy, biomedical, and it goes on a list and list. But then it also says, and vital services to any state, local, or tribal government. So when I read that from the literal sense, it's saying the critical infrastructure is all of these sectors, you know, the health care, restaurants, food, but government is listed as one of the critical infrastructures. Then it says with essential work means is not performed while teleworking from a residence and involves regular in-person interactions with patients, the public, or co-workers of the individual that is performing the work, or physical handling of items that were handled by or are to be handled by patients, the public, or co-workers of the individual that is performing the work. So one of the things that they mentioned in the webinar was that co-workers was one of the things excluded. But under the interim final rule from the U.S. Treasury, it says that those would be included. So I think where our dilemma is the state not agreeing or not interpreting. Again, I'm not an attorney.
Well, to the point, what you make, and that is exactly what I sent as a question. Not only did I do it, but another person did it, and my question was, the definition of eligible workers on page 26820 of the Federal Register lists essential critical infrastructure sectors and includes any work performed by an employee of a state and local government. I said, this appears to me to be the blanket for government employees. And their response, their workers have to be tied to critical infrastructure work and public facing. A blanket assumption for all public sector employees is not allowed. And another gentleman, as soon as I did that, he sent the same question, and the response, they have to be performing critical infrastructure work that is essential to the well-being and health of residents. That's what they keep, if you remember, that's what they keep pounding, was it's not blanket, it has to be essential to the well-being and health of residents.
That's
over
right.
and over and over.
That's why I went back to look at this rule, is because they're saying, the federal government is saying critical infrastructure is government. So I mean, this is
the conflict. That's the conflict. I told the mayor, I said, I could argue both sides of this.
Yeah, it's complicated, and maybe we need to wait till next month. But, trying to make it simple, I just thought I'd recommend it to the Budget Committee, $2,000 for full-time people in the general fund, $1,000 for part-time, because even our convenience center operators came in contact with people cleaning out their garages and could have been infected. They were on the front line. I know we're getting down into the weeds, but it's something that's critical. Bottom line, what it comes down to is either we go ahead and spend it, as the comptroller said today, with his director of audit with him, Jimmy. What's his last name? Jimmy?
Oh, gosh, Jim Arnett.
Said that he told 21 mayors sitting at the Library and Archives today, if you have a question, call us, but otherwise, make sure that however you answer the questions and you submit it, that it somehow justifies that they were in contact with COVID-19. And it's so broad, everybody could say that, because I think everybody, if you had a mask on, you might have been exposed to it. Nobody in there knows how they got it. So we can refine this down and bring it back next month, or you can move forward with the $4 million, keeping in mind if we get audited, then come back and you'd have to take it out of general fund, because you, right? We'd have to pay it back.
I don't have a problem with approving the amendment, with the resolution. It's the ultimate payment. And before we pay, it's what I want to make sure that we can provide those justifications.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying.
So I have Commissioner Stevens and then Commissioner Gammon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was looking at this list here on the paper that was handed out to us, and I wanted to offer a solution for question number 1, which appears to be the easiest one on the list. Is there an effective end date for those that would get a bonus? And I wanted to offer an amendment and say that anyone that was not hired on or before October 31st would not qualify for this bonus. So there's a definite cutoff, and it's a clean end of the month.
And beginning upon the second week of March.
Well, yeah, that's kind of but the end date.
Just cuts off at October 31st.
All right. I've got an amendment, motion on an amendment. Is there a second? Got a second. Discussion on the amendment.
I have a discussion.
Discussion.
Just a discussion, because that helps. We can't spend more than, pay more than $13 an hour. So I would say that with the end date of October 31st, and they must have worked at least, if they were part-time, 54.6 hours.
Is that of 21 or 22?
And 109 hours if they're full-time. Sir?
Is that October 31st of
That's
21 or
October
22?
31st, because it would be...
I mean, or 20 or 22? Or 21, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it would just be like if they hired in the end date of calculation, that's what I'm getting. The end date of calculation is October 31st,
Of
2021.
Yeah, because the first case was in Rutherford County was 12th or 13th of March of 20. So moving forward, that gives you some kind of idea. So now we've got a motion, discussion on the amendment. We'll vote on the amendment and then see where that goes and back for discussion. You want to discuss this amendment?
Well, just real quick,
Commissioner
let me
Gammon.
get the date again, Commissioner Stevens, who's talking about the cutoff. I understood.
October 31st, 2021.
That's the cutoff that you don't get it?
No, that's the date for calculation.
If you were hired on November 1st or after, you would not qualify for this bonus, or premium pay.
I understand, but I'll be honest with you, maybe I'm blind, but I don't see anybody on this list that fits that.
Yeah, but, I mean, by the time we make payments, somebody could be on our payroll.
I understand that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, that where's the end date?
I may need to ask a question.
Well, we need to take care of this amendment, and then we'll go back to the motion as amended. That's how we'll handle this.
I'll sit down and...
Okay, other discussion on the amendment before us? Keep from being confused on this because this is a critical issue. Let's go on the board. Members, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote, Madam Clerk.
19 yes, 1 no.
Motion passes. We're back on Commissioner P. I believe we still haven't voted on your amendment to the resolution.
Right.
Informed. Let me go back to Commissioner Gammon. You want to talk on the original motion now as amended?
I'm sorry, I don't normally talk as much. When Ms. Stevens was up there, the question came up that I'm a little confused on. Are we talking about everybody but this person is good to go or not? Everybody but these people, these 63 people. Are we good to go with everybody else in the county, all the employees?
After today, after this webinar, I can't definitively say yes, everybody, without, it's easy to say public safety. It's easy to say public health.
I'm not fussing, but
no, I'm just saying that's where I'm at.
God's name are we going to know? If you're going to sit down one by one, we've been dealing with this for a while. I thought we just worried about these people, but now it's going down to 100 others probably.
Before today, I would have said, let's go. All I'm asking is that you give us and let us justify. So you could say everybody gets it. Let's get the justification.
Can we do this before Christmas?
Well, as Comptroller said today, he's not sure because they've already delayed it since September to December on the final rule. So that's what I was saying a moment ago. At some point in time, the commission needs to make a decision.
We're one of 95 counties.
Yes, sir.
What is everybody else doing?
Well, some have paid it out of their general fund. I believe Smyrna went ahead and paid it out of these funds. If they get audited, they'll have to pay it back like we would. So that's the question this commission needs to deal with. I just said 2,000, 1,000, and I'd cleared everybody essential. But now that's changed, evidently.
All I'm saying is, do you want to be right, or do you just want to do it?
Well, okay, I've got, are you?
You could,
I digress.
Okay, I've got Commissioner Rather and Commissioner Stevens.
Well, this came up in public safety, and I think Commissioner Gurley and Commissioner Gammon and myself brought it up. And there was a question that I still have that was presented to me when I presented it and Commissioner Gurley presented it. What's essential? Who's eligible? So that's kind of been narrowed down. And to answer your question, if we can do it before December, this is government. No, it won't happen. I don't see it happening. So my point is you put a plateau there. If you make over this, if I understand correctly, you're not eligible.
You
correct?
have to justify.
Okay, so
the
here's the
Treasury.
justification. And this is, bless you. It is a real-life situation where deputies, detectives, EMA, EMS all swarm part of my district. There are lieutenants, there are captains in all departments. Everybody came. They came off duty. They could go above that threshold, but still they're on the roads just like everybody else. I'm not just talking about that SO. I'm talking about EMS, EMA, the whole 9 yards. And then I was asked after the meeting, well, are we essential if we process documents for the SO or EMS? If we process this? And it goes back to the question that was presented in public safety a couple of months ago that was kind of disheartening to me. I was asked, well, who do you consider essential? Who do you consider eligible? Everybody's essential. Every single person is essential. If it's a guy downstairs mopping the floor, is that not essential? And I used this years, and I'm going to shut up after this, maybe. Years and years ago, I used a video of a NASCAR race. And everybody thinks the crew chief and the driver and the sponsors wins the race. No. There's a guy that changes, he puts a tire on the left front wheel and right front wheel, and he reaches over and wipes off the grill. Is he essential compared to the crew chief and the sponsors and the team owner and the driver? Most people would say, well, he's not that essential. But guess what? If he don't wipe that grill off, then the horsepower goes down because the rubber that builds up on the grill. I'm a big NASCAR fan. So that guy that just simply wipes the grill off, gets that rubber off the grill, can actually make a difference whether that guy wins the race or not. If he don't get that wheel on there just right, it could cost the championship. Kyle Larson won the Winston Cup championship this year, or whatever cup it is this year. But everybody's essential. Everybody. But then I go a little further and I say the guys that put a gun belt on and leave their children and their homes every day, and Commissioner Gurley, Commissioner Gammon, and maybe some others, I've done it as a volunteer. It's scary. So whether you're a 2-month deputy or you're a lieutenant or a sergeant or a captain, because the captains come out on the road. The lieutenants especially are on the road, and so are the sergeants. Regardless of what they make, were they not essential? Even in EMS, the different ranks amongst EMS and EMA, is not everybody essential? That's my point. And that was brought up in public safety to define who's really essential. I say all of them are.
Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I actually had several amendments, and the second one was going to try to answer question number 2 about the called as needed paramedics and firefighters. When we made our motion the other night, did we consider them to be the full-time treatment or the part-time treatment?
Neither. You didn't say.
So what would the assumption have been for the calculations? Or were they just not included at all?
My assumption would be not included, making a distinction between people who work regularly part-time hours as opposed to we call you when we need you.
So these are not regularly scheduled at
That's
all?
what I'm making, that's kind of what I'm saying. Do you agree with my assumption? That PRN, called as needed, are different from those employees who work regularly scheduled part-time hours and are not considered part-time employees for premium pay.
So you're looking for some direction on what to do for those?
I just want that defined to stop a question.
You know how many hours the average person works that's in that role?
I will say, I do not know at this moment. I know that we have people on the payroll that are active in our payroll that we haven't written a check before January of 21, but they're still active, but they're PRN because we may call them. That's what I'm trying to, that's the problem I'm trying to solve.
Okay, and then my other question was going to be, how many people do we think fall into this category that may not be essential critical infrastructure?
I don't know. I'm telling you, this is stuff that came today. And my starting point, y'all give us just a time in speaking with Carrie Clark, who is with the EMA, and some of you who are in on public safety. I didn't realize that that at some point we have already identified those essential critical sectors, that it's already in EMA's plan, that's where I would begin identifying which ones that this county has already identified those, and then see what is left and how can we justify them in. That would be my approach between now and December when we come back. So, but I'm sorry I'm jumping, but they make a distinction, not essential worker. There's an eligible worker, and there is essential work. Eligible workers are workers needed to maintain continuity of operations of essential critical infrastructure sectors. That's what Sonia was talking about. But essential work is work that's not performed from home. If you do it from home, it's not that. But it involves regular in-person interactions with patients, the public, or co-workers of the individual that's performing the work, or regular physically handling of items that were handled by or to be handled by patients, the public, or co-workers of the individuals. As you said, that's very broad, but that is essential work. My focus is essential critical, however, it's essential critical infrastructure sectors. That is what I feel like we need to define back to you to say these are the ones. It's easy to say public safety, public health.
Commissioner Stevens.
All right, my next question was, if we delay this to the December commission meeting, is there a way that the bonus or the premium pay could be made before Christmas?
It should. Had I not had this class today and had this input, the work is done and ready for them to input. Once we've got these other clarifications, I think we could. it's got to be in between payroll dates. We're going to do it in between. We pay every 2 weeks, and we are planning to do it on the off week.
So if this gets voted on the December 15th commission meeting, the pay could be deposited before Christmas.
Well, let me look. Can I get back with you just in just a minute? Because I think today, I think Friday is a payroll gig. I just start counting.
All right, I've got Commissioner Gammon, Key, and then Gurley. Commissioner.
I'm back again. Let me say first that I almost didn't make it tonight. I'm not making excuses, but I've got a tooth. I got to have a root canal in the morning, and I'm not happy. Let's put it that way. The definition is being thrown on you, Mayor.
There you
go. Oh, thank you. I've been there before. But perhaps to help the definition with the Budget Committee or whoever, and I will, thank you, Commissioner Stevens. Maybe we need to go back to each elected official, I'm not trying to put the monkey on them, but they justify who is essential. Then to put it together and use the definition that Ms. Nolan can put out there. Sorry. But maybe that can help. I'm sure it can be done in a timely manner, and you got smaller departments, you have some larger ones, but maybe they could help with the justification of what they consider and fight for their employee at the same time, and I know a bunch of them will, absolutely, not putting a monkey on anybody's back, but I'm just saying maybe they could help this justification you're asking for, that you don't have to 100%, you can look over what it is, but then they can lay out these essential employees, and we can come back to this other 63 at some point, but it's most important we get these other people that are there fixed. You got 63 people that right now we have put aside that we need to look at, but we need to get these other ones taken care of quickly. It's not recklessly, but I'm just saying that's an option.
Sure. All right, I had Commissioner Key and Commissioner Gurley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So let me speak loosely right now, and that's not something that Lisa wants to hear. I'm sure we want to speak specifics, but let me speak loosely. So it seems like perhaps we need to be the precedent on this. We don't have those that are walking in front of us. I mean, let's remember that we are a big county. We're not small. We're not waiting for answers. So let's just look at some scenarios. Perhaps we approve this. I mean, we're talking $4,270,000. So let's walk through it. If we make the decision, we push forward, and we decide to do this, and then we say, justify it. Okay, the onus is upon someone to justify it, okay? We're either going to justify it before or after, okay? Are we willing to, now let's say that an audit does occur. I would never wish that on anyone. But if an audit did occur, are we responsible for negating $4,270,000? Or is it seems like we're in agreement that 90%, 95% are covered under this definition. We're getting hooked on the others and it's taking a lot of this discussion. What are we willing to do? Are we willing to come out of the fund if that were the case? We've got to set a precedent. It seems like the onus is upon us. I'm not trying to create extra work, but if we wait till another month and find the justification, I really don't think we're going to see. I don't know. Anyone in here is not for getting employees money before Christmas. I think everybody wants to do that. Our chances are a lot slimmer if we wait till the December meeting.
Commissioner Gurley and then Commissioner P.
Yes, I want to clarify a couple of things. Like Commissioner Rather said, I've been out there with lieutenants and captains and assistant directors of EMS and so on some less than desirable situations, and they're out there, they're front line. It's just, we got to remember where we're taking this money from. These are grant funds. They have guidelines. If we were appropriating this money out of general fund, we can set the guidelines because we're the body that sets the guidelines for general fund. We're not taking it out of general fund, so therefore we have to go by the guidelines. I have to agree with Commissioner Key. We have a large majority of these people that there's no question, zero question. So I would kind of go along with him. Can we break this down and go ahead and approve? Maybe it goes back to budget, maybe it don't, maybe we just do that tonight. But can we break it down? And those people that are clearly eligible, those people that fall under this earnings guideline, those people that are clearly, unmistakably essential in the public safety, public health, and one or two other areas of government, and then come back, approve that tonight, expend that, get their paychecks in the mail to them for sure, and then come back and let's work on justifying, because I think a lot of these people on this list could easily be justified. It's just going to take some time to do it. We can't do that tonight. And there may be some other people who aren't on this list that it may be questionable as to whether they're justifiable or not. But I think it's pretty clear that we know those people who are frontline facing that are doing. Can we do that tonight? And I'll turn it back to Chairman P.
Commissioner P, Chairman P, and then Chairman Blair.
About three things I want to mention. First, if you take this list and you gave everybody on that list $2,000, you're talking about $130,000. Okay, those are the ones that have to be justified. Okay, and that's what my amendment was aiming to do, is get this back to budget so we can go ahead and get these people paid before Christmas and not drop it in Lisa's lap how to justify these people, okay, or the mayor. You know, I think that's something we can do. Commissioner Gammon had a good idea. Maybe some of these departments that somebody might not deem as critical can help us and say, hey, here's why we think we are, here's how we interfaced with the public. And they could come to us at our budget meeting and say, hey, here's what we did. Here's why we should be exempt from this. At any rate, the other thing, and I've been reading reams of paper on this, and I'm sure a lot of y'all have been getting the same emails and reading this, but the thing that keeps sticking out in my mind is time after time, they say that the chief executive officer is the one who decides who is essential. And that's our mayor, and he's already made that decision, and he said all employees are essential, okay? The other thing that keeps jumping out at me, even though I keep hearing different things come down, and Ms. Stevenson mentioned this, she mentioned your state, local, and tribal governments. And there's one statement that I read twice that stuck out and said that all state, local, and tribal government employees are eligible. And you've read that too, is that correct?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, that's where I'm telling you that I'm getting confused. I'm getting conflicting information. That's why I wanted to throw this back to budget. That's why I offered that amendment, to let us have some time to sort this between now and the 9th and still get this done before Christmas. Anyway, that's pretty much all I've got to offer.
Right. Commissioner Blair.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't know if this is an easy fix or not, but possibly we just exclude this list at this time and go ahead and approve all of the other
Yes, sir.
tonight?
That's what Ms. Nolan and I just talked about. She doesn't have a problem with what Commissioner Key, Gurley, and you were saying. She doesn't have a problem with let's go ahead, issue checks for everybody sergeant below. all of our EMAs, everybody that
Detention, those that we know that are easy.
we already know qualify.
Detention
What's being
officers.
said. Let them go ahead and let her send out a check, and we'll worry about the rest of them in December.
That will get the vast majority, and that would, to me, is your boots on the ground, the ones that are really out there doing it every day. I have no problem with go ahead and getting patrol, you know, all those that are easy. It's those that start questioning. If you allow us to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, we're going to clean these up, these are easy, but, you know.
And that's 2,000.
Again, the number amount is
2001,
the parameter.
Okay, all right.
If that is,
Well, if that's the case, and if I withdraw my motion.
Yes, sir.
Or my amendment to the motion.
Yes, sir.
And I think, Mr. Gurley, you probably.
Mr. Gurley,
The second.
if you withdraw the second on his amendment.
I will.
Okay.
But that
Now
would still
back.
leave in place Commissioner Stevens' amendment, which I think we need
That's
to
a
leave that
date.
in there.
and then we get those that are, I mean, Joe Blow on the street could go, yeah, that's one.
The other question, which was number 2 that you were starting to address, those are basically what paid on call firefighters
Or paramedics.
or paramedics. And right now, they're excluded, or they would be?
Excluded.
Okay. Well, I think we need to look at them as part-time myself, but that's for another discussion maybe.
I mean, we've got some that haven't been paid almost a year. Do you put them or
Yeah.
not?
What about our part-time convenience center workers?
Oh, they're in there. I'm talking about a separation of, well, I got you on my payroll, I'll call you if I need you, as opposed to,
Gotcha.
let's talk about Reggie and things, that they are scheduled to work part-time
Gotcha.
every time. That's the distinction I'm making.
Basically, what we do is in budget would look at justification for the ones that are exempted here, and then that would be brought to the full commission on the 16th, or is it the 15th? I think it's the 16th.
16.
Just so I've got it straight in my head anyway, so.
That is what I was looking at, that might cause a problem when you say you do it before Christmas. I think today's the 10th, the 12th is a payroll week. We would try to get these ones that I'm talking about the 19th.
The week after payroll.
Next Friday. And then the next group, I mean, we won't come back again until budget meets is on the 8th. It might be after Christmas, the week after. But as I said, I think the vast majority of the folks that y'all are interested, I mean, I know you're interested in all employees, but the ones that are near and dear.
All right.
Take care of.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner
so
Blair.
is this going to be an amendment to the resolution that we go ahead and pay immediately everyone that is not on this list?
No.
No.
We're doing the amendment to have the money in place.
Okay.
It's just when do we pay all the groups?
I guess my motion would contain 2 parts. That is to go ahead and pay our employees and withhold on this list and let the budget committee come back and research this list, and the budget committee decide whether or not this list is eligible or not. Does that make sense?
So you're putting that in the form of an amendment to the original motion?
That's what I was asking. Am I
Yes, sir.
making a motion or
Yes,
an
sir.
amendment?
It's an amendment to the original motion that's before us.
Was that clear as far as?
That means pay everybody.
All right.
Everybody, but excluding this list, and this list goes back to budget.
That's a totally separate issue than what I'm saying is defining essential critical infrastructures.
He withdrew. Okay. Let's make sure that everybody's clear. Madam Clerk, so the motion you have withdrawn, your amendment to the original motion, you withdrew the second on that amendment. Now we're back to the motion without your amendment on it.
Original resolution.
Original resolution.
With Stevens' amendment.
For Stevens, with his amendment, it's on.
Yep.
Right? And now we have a second.
Okay, all right,
Yeah,
right.
you go
Just
ahead,
real
right,
quick, just so it might help for somebody, maybe Lisa or Commissioner P., to state what the original resolution that is currently before the body as amended by Commissioner Stevens would do if passed.
Well, bottom line is it would provide $4,270,000, and I don't have that number right in front of me.
$4,270,485.
Yes,
That's everybody.
$4,270,485 would be budgeted for this premium pay. And with the amendment that you're talking about, we could go ahead and vote on that. Those people would be paid. But this list of people that are exempted would not be paid, although they're in that number. They're part of that number. Okay, so we actually wouldn't be paying that out, but we're going to look at these at the next budget committee if your amendment passes, and then that'll be forwarded to the full commission. If we can justify these, then we'll go ahead and pay them at that time. It's the way I understand your motion.
All right, you've heard the explanation. I've got Chairman Allen, Commissioner Stevens, you still want to speak also on the original motion?
I seconded the motion, the amendment, for this reason. My understanding out of these many conversations is that basically the justification is a CYA. We're just trying to cover ourselves, right? To make sure that we're spending the money the way it's intended to be spent. In all the conversations that I've heard, I feel like the spirit of the commission, our intent is to pay everyone. So my thinking is the reason that I had no problem excluding only these high earners is twofold. One, if we have to come back with the justification on the ones that the mayor has added, I'm fine with that. If we have to come back with the justification on paying these folks, I'm fine with that. And I liked what Commissioner Gammon was saying in terms of letting them justify. You know, we don't know day to day what these people do that, you know, might on paper look like why would you pay them, but they know what they did and they know why they deserve it. So that's what I think budget needs to review, is those reasons. If we feel like they can't justify it, I'm still in favor of paying it. We just know that may be money that comes out of general fund and not out of this amount. So I feel like the spirit of the commission is to pay everybody. I feel like the justification is we're just trying to cover ourselves. So I'm confident that we can answer bullet question number 1, which we've already done on that vote. I think also budget can review, when we review this list and the justifications, I think we can review the PRN. If you had somebody who worked X amount of hours and we want to justify paying them, pay them. If we have somebody we've not cut a check in a year, we're not going to pay them, right? So I think we can look at those pieces at budget, but short of that, I think we allot the amount of money that we've already planned for and cut the checks is what I think we want to do. That was my reason for seconding this. The only ones we don't cut are these, and we're going to look at these in budget next month.
Yeah, we can do that next month. Commissioner Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I wanted clarification because what I heard from Commissioner Blair's amendment is not the same thing that Ms. Nolan was saying about paying people that we know are already essential. And I wanted justification or some kind of reconciliation between those two ideas. The amendment that's being offered is to pay all the people that are not on this list. But what you were saying was to pay the ones that we know are essential, the easy ones. And so I guess my question is, at what point on your proposal, what makes them a gray area? Which ones do you think are easy that we should pay now?
To me, the easy ones are patrol officers, detention officers, SROs, and I say detention officers, whether it's at the workhouse or the jail or juvenile, any of those, health workers, EMA, ambulance, paramedics, EMTs. Those to me are easy.
Firefighters.
And firefighters. Don't forget firefighters. And firefighters.
What about the animal control workers, convenience centers?
Let me see. Solid waste, that's easy. Solid waste is easy.
Yeah. Paul's wears a bulletproof vest.
I know that. I know. Let's see. I thought I had something with them. Solid waste management. They're not in the list as identified. If you got, this is where I struggle, is if this, and it's what Sonia brought up, any work performed by an employee of a state and local government, okay, that's everybody. But then, again, the state's saying, no, not them. I said, so that's what I want to resolve. Them saying no to not all sectors, or is it that we just have to identify and say, if there's a question, this is why, let's just pick Paul's. If there's a question, I believe that it's essential for public health.
So if we go with your recommendation, who's going to decide who gets the checks now versus who doesn't get one until after our next commission meeting? I mean, is that going to be you or the mayor, or who's going to decide who's on the easy end and who's on the difficult end? I don't want to put you in a difficult situation to where you're the bad guy.
Well, I just named all who I thought were easy ones.
What's the difference between what you just said and your amendment?
My motion was everybody, and I said everybody except on this list.
Okay, so that's
Except the,
clarification on your amendment is everybody
except the high earners.
Except on that list.
And then hers recommendation is everybody that we can determine certainly fits on that list, but there's going to be some that may not.
But she didn't make a motion. I have a motion and a second from Commissioner Blair, but you want the clarification. Yes, sir.
I want the commissioners to understand that our budget director is telling us something different than what the motion is. So I just wanted to bring that point, make it very clear.
All right. Commissioner Reed.
Mr. Chairman, I think we've walked through the weeds long enough, and I think it's time that we go ahead and vote on his motion, so I'm calling for the question.
The question's been called. Commissioner Blair's motion, everybody understands a motion for his amendment, and it's a second, and we pay everybody except the people that's on that list. That is his amendment. And then we will come back. The budget. Correct. All right. Let's be clear and be on the board. Members, we're on the board. Please cast your vote.
Somebody's doing
For the amendment.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record a vote, Madam Clerk.
19 yes, 1 no.
Motion passes. We're back on the motion as amended. Where are we at? Commissioner Gammon.
Hey, I'd just like for the record to show on this that I did vote yes, of course, on this, but I am declaring Rule 10.
All right. Commissioner Gammon declares Rule 10 for the record. Does anybody have a spouse or a current employee that would be reflective of this? You may want to declare Rule 10.
Not a retiree, but somebody that's on the commission that's a current employee and or whose spouse is a current employee of Rutherford County government or any constitutional office. Not a school teacher, because that's not, we don't pay them.
All right. We're back on the motion as amended. Any further discussion? Seeing none, we're on the board. Members, cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote, Madam Clerk.
20 yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. So I would just urge the Budget Committee to be as diligent in accepting these as we were tonight. I would hate to think that someone's disqualified from being on the front lines because they made too much money. So just a comment.
Commissioner Gammon.
Mr. Chairman, I also meant on that vote as well to declare Rule 10, please.
All right, let the record reflect Commissioner Gammon votes Rule 10. Any further discussion? We'll move on to next item on the agenda. I'm sorry? Except for everybody on that list. Except for who's on that list. Commissioner Gammon, I've been instructed by the attorney, because you are a direct employee, I need you to withdraw your vote from that last vote. Yes, sir. For the record.
So I will. Like for the record to show.
Okay. Commissioner Gammon removes his vote.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Members, we are on M2, Health and Education Committee. Chairman Allen, you're recognized.
Okay, I'm going to try to keep this as simple and straightforward as possible. However, we do have the Director of Schools and the Superintendent of Finance who are here. They are the subject matter experts and can answer any detailed question that you have. This resolution is being made at the request of Rutherford County Schools. They've asked that Health and Education and this commission partner with them in conveying our concerns regarding a recent charter school application. This is not a blanket objection to charter schools. This is a specific concern that we have regarding this application that we feel like had many deficiencies and is not justified or warranted at this time. I'm going to summarize for you some of the key takeaways that we had that were our concerns. First one being, we have no failing schools in Rutherford County. So when you look at adding a charter school, typically that's to meet a need, right? We have no failing schools. There is no local governing authority over this entity. If created, this charter school will basically be a third public school system offering inside Rutherford County. You currently have Rutherford County Schools, Murfreesboro City Schools, and you would have this charter school, which is a public school system. The thing that's different about this school versus all the others is that this school does not answer to the local Board of Education, whether it be Murfreesboro or Rutherford County. This group does not answer to this board. They will not report at Health and Education Committee meetings. We will not see their budget. There is no level of local accountability to this body in any way. Our third concern is this automatically diverts tax dollars from Rutherford County Schools. In their first year, they want $4.8 million if they're
enrollment is what they anticipate it would be. That's the equivalent of 71 teacher salaries and benefits. That's not a small amount of money that you're talking about lifting out of our current budget. The fourth point is the state comptroller's office has told Mr. Bottery in writing that they have no oversight over these companies' finances. So if we don't have oversight and the state comptroller doesn't have oversight, who has oversight? Our last key issue is there is no local support financially to launch this school. There's been no local Rutherford County fundraising that's happened in order to launch this school to say, as a community, we want and need this school. There's also no local participation in terms of their leadership. There is no Rutherford County citizen on their board, so there is no entity that we're aware of inside of Rutherford County who is advocating for this school. This is purely an outside source coming in, trying to create an opportunity for themselves to establish this school. Those are the high points. This is the resolution. Joint resolution of opposition to Rutherford County Collegiate Prep Charter Schools application. Whereas the Rutherford County Board of Education has reviewed the charter application of the Rutherford Collegiate Prep Charter School and denied the initial charter application, and the amended application, as neither the application or the amended application support the applicant meeting or exceeding the standards of the Tennessee Department of Education's application scoring rubric, and specifically none of the three applicable portions of the amended application, the academic plan, the operations plan, or the financial plan, meet or exceed the Tennessee Department of Education standards. And whereas the Rutherford County and Education Committee reviewed financial information from the application that was submitted by the charter school with the Rutherford County Director of Schools and Assistant Superintendent of Budget and Finance, and it was noted that the applicant's proposed charter school in Rutherford County would have a substantial negative fiscal impact on the Rutherford County school system. And whereas the applicant's plan would require immediate funding from Rutherford County taxpayers if the school enrollment does not materialize quickly at the beginning of the school year as projected, Rutherford County would not receive the funds from the state to reimburse the county for costs advanced to the charter school. Further, funding the charter school would divert approximately $4.8 million in state and local tax dollars away from Rutherford County school system in its first year of operation, and increasing to a total of over $32 million in the state and local tax dollars in the first 5 years of the charter school's operation, during a time where the county school system is facing rapid student growth and a high demand of fiscal funds to maintain state-mandated operations. And whereas it appears that not a single board member of Rethink Forward, the charter school's operator, is a Rutherford County resident, further evidencing the lack of local support since there is no local leadership on the charter school board. And whereas the applicant will be requesting millions of dollars of local tax funding over the next several years, and there's a lack of even $1 of locally donated funds in the pre-operating budget that's presented by the charter school's operator. This absence of locally donated funds further demonstrates the lack of local support for charter school. And whereas this specific charter school is not needed in Rutherford County, the proposed charter school primarily targets a grade band K-5 in its first years of operation and can enroll not only countywide, but from other surrounding counties as well. And I'll add a footnote here that that is also at our expense. If they enroll students from other counties in this school, Rutherford County gets the bill. While Rutherford County school system is growing rapidly as a whole, the K-5 grade band is growing at a lower rate over the last several years district-wide in comparison to our middle and high school grade bands. Furthermore, Rutherford County Schools is currently ranked as one of the best school systems in the state of Tennessee. Rutherford County Schools system provides a quality education to the children of our county, and this specific charter school is not currently needed. Whereas this charter school board will have no local accountability to the Rutherford County Commission or the citizens of Rutherford County in relation to the local tax funding that it will take from the county. Now therefore be it resolved by a vote of the Rutherford County School Board meeting in regular session in Murfreesboro, Tennessee on the 11th day of November 2021, and the Rutherford County Legislative Body meeting in regular session in Murfreesboro, Tennessee on the 10th day of November 2021. That's Section 1. While Rutherford County Board of Education and the Rutherford County Commission are not opposed to open choice in Rutherford County, the lack of local leadership of this specific charter schools board, along with other above noted items, is of great concern and leads both elected bodies to formally request that the Tennessee Charter School Commission reject the appeal of the Rutherford Collegiate Prep Charter School application. Section 2, that our state delegation is requested to consider introducing legislation that would require any charter school seeking to operate in Rutherford County to have a majority of its charter school board be residents of Rutherford County, Tennessee. Section 3, that Rutherford County Clerk mail a copy of this approved resolution to the Tennessee Charter School Commission and to each of our county state delegates. Adopted this 10th day of November 2021 by the Rutherford County Commission. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Mr. Phillips.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make really clear that most, if not all, of the Health and Education Committee members are not opposed to charter schools. We are 100% opposed to this application, and that's what we're voting on tonight, in opposition of this application. It's my understanding that there has to be a need, in essence, approved need for a charter school. Rutherford County has no failing schools. We're an A+ school system. There is no need for this application here, and I would encourage us to unanimously support this resolution. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Gurley.
Yeah, I would like to reiterate what Chairman Phillips said. This, as I stated in committee, basically amounts to taxation without representation. We're having a private corporation come in here and pull several $1 million of state and county revenue from the county to run a school system that has no representation from within Rutherford County. We're sending this to our delegation, but I don't know how it even is able to get this far along in the process. That's something I think when we meet with our delegation in January, as we normally do, that we need to have a discussion as to how this can even happen. Why are we even seeing this? So I would urge you to vote for this resolution.
Commissioner Blair.
Mr. Chairman, I would just like to wholeheartedly agree with the Chairman's comments, and that having served on the board and knowing our present board, there is no bias against charter schools. It's just that this charter school does not meet our needs.
I think that's well said, Commissioner, and for all those who have made those same comments. And as I said the other day, upon passage of the resolution, said the other night, there is a place for charter schools. I've visited one in inner city Memphis. There is a place, but not in Rutherford County. We have two good school systems. There's not a place for that. So upon passage of this tonight by the county commission, I will draft a letter with support of this full commission upon passage to our delegation. Our delegation needs to be engaged, and they need to respond and show up to the Charter School Commission because they're the ones that passed the law at state level to allow charter schools. So the commission at state level has that authority, but they need to know where this commission stands on this charter school. Okay, we have a resolution and motion before us. We had a second on the resolution. Let's go on the board, members. Please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now.
Record the vote, Madam Clerk.
18 yes.
Motion passes. Thank you, folks, from the school board and superintendent. Thank you all for enduring our other matters of business. Thank you all tonight. Next, we have item M3, Property Management Committee. Chairman McAdoo, he had, well, we lost Commissioner Gammon with the toothache, and Commissioner Johnson is here. I guess Commissioner McAdoo had a headache. So you're recognized, Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, Mr. McAdoo usually says he'll be brief, and hopefully this will be brief. Resolution. Whereas the Rutherford County has engaged the Public Building Authority of Rutherford County, Tennessee, for the planning, design, construction, and furnishing of the one-stop building to be located on property owned by the city of Murfreesboro, Tennessee, at the corner of Blaze Drive and Fortress Boulevard. And whereas said one-stop building will consist of office space for the Rutherford County Clerk, space for Department of Safety and Homeland Security, Express Center, and other shell space, and whereas Rutherford County has entered into a certain ground lease agreement with the city of Murfreesboro regarding the one-stop building, and whereas said ground lease provides that Rutherford County shall name the one-stop building and shall create appropriate signage to reflect such naming, subject to concurrence of the one-stop building name by the Murfreesboro City Council. And whereas the Property Management Committee recommended that the one-stop building name be designated as the Bart Smith One-Stop Building. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that this body hereby recommend that the one-stop building be named the Bart Smith One-Stop Building, subject to concurrence by the Murfreesboro City Council. Be it further resolved that the county mayor is hereby authorized to forward this resolution to the city of Murfreesboro mayor for consideration and presentation to the Murfreesboro City Council for review and approved. Resolved this 10th day of November 2021. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Commissioner Gammon and Phillips. Commissioner Cook, you're recognized.
Somewhere in my memory, and I can't come up with the dates on it, I thought our former commissioners said not name buildings after people. Now, I understand that the Smith family donated the land. It wasn't Bart. So I'm not for naming it Bart Smith unless we name it for the Smith family.
Okay, other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of the resolution signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Next, Commissioner Johnson, item M3B. This is to rescind, I'll take it. This is to rescind, since Commissioner McAdoo, Chairman McAdoo left, there needs to be a motion to rescind the offer on the State Farm building. Commissioner Johnson, you want to come up as Vice Chairman, read the resolution? So, members, you authorized me to make an offer for 25, as I stated earlier, 25.5 for the State Farm building. They wanted between 85 and 90 million. So this is the resolution to rescind our offer to JDM LLC.
Well, this one's brief, true. Okay, resolution. Whereas at its regular scheduled meeting on June 17, 2021, Rutherford County Board of Commissioners authorize the county mayor to negotiate the purchase of the State Farm building located on Memorial Boulevard in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, State Farm Bureau Farm Building. And whereas the county mayor submitted a letter of intent offering to purchase the State Farm building and under certain terms and conditions submitted to final review and approval of the Rutherford County Commission. And whereas the agreement for the purchase of the State Farm building was not reached and the letter of intent has lapsed, and whereas it is appropriate to formally reflect in the minutes of the County Commission that the offer to purchase the state building has lapsed and been withdrawn. Now therefore be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that any and all offers to purchase the State Farm building are hereby withdrawn. Resolved this 10th day of November 2021. Mr. Chairman, I so move.
Have a motion. Second. Commissioner Dodd on the second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, motion carries. Next, Commissioner Chairman Reed, Public Safety Committee. No report. Next we have M5. I believe Commissioner Piercy, you're going to step in. Commissioner Cush took off for Cancun today, and so it's on you, Chairman. Yeah, we all should have.
Over the last several months, our subcommittee with Public Works has put in long and many nights discussing what to do with our trash. We've looked at everything from turning it from diamonds to jet fuel. We've looked at all of it. A lot of it's very interesting. A lot of it's out of our reach because there's no end use for their product they can produce. In the past, we have come and asked for money to hire Becky Caldwell, Caldwell Environmental Solutions, LLC, to help us draft our RFIs and our RFPs. And now we are coming back to ask for you to fund this resolution. For the majority of our committee feels like there's one rock we hadn't turned over yet on our trash issue, and that's maybe remining out our old landfill. Our old landfill is an issue today. We're spending thousands of dollars on it a year to maintain it in the situation it is. We think maybe there is a company out there somewhere that is interested in bidding on the reclamation of our old county landfill that was not interested in doing all the other items that was in our RFP. If you dig up trash, you're probably not interested in education. It's just two different worlds. But we think there is at least one or two, maybe more companies that would submit an offer and a price to do away with our county landfill. If we don't do this, we'll always reckon what it would cost. Today, we're spending somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million a year to maintain our county landfill. And we're going to do that for several years to come. If we could have it mined out for a lot less money, some of us think it would be the thing to do. Now, this come from our Public Works Committee the other night. Majority approved. There were 6 of us there. It was a 4-2 vote to bring this resolution to y'all to let you vote on it. I'm going to read you the resolution. Whereas Rutherford County desires to enter into an agreement with Caldwell Environmental Solutions, LLC, insubstantially the form attached hereto as Exhibit A to approve requests for proposal service as contained therein. And whereas the service will be billed to Rutherford County at an hourly rate of $150 per hour with a maximum liability to Rutherford County of $20,000 as provided for Exhibit A. Therefore, be it resolved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners that the county mayor and all other appropriate officials in Rutherford County, Tennessee be and are hereby authorized to execute an agreement with Caldwell Environmental Solutions, LLC, a copy of this same being attached hereto as Exhibit A and incorporated herein by reference as if set forth herein at length verbatim, to provide request for proposal service to be billed to Rutherford County at an hourly rate of $150 per hour with a maximum liability to the Rutherford County of $20,000 as contained therein. Resolved this 10th day of November 2021. Chairman, I so move.
I have a motion. We have a second. Commissioner Blair and others. Any further discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, let's go on the board. Members, please cast your vote.
Anyone that did not vote and wishes to vote, or anyone who would like to change your vote, you may do so now. Seventeen yes, 1 no.
Motion passes. All right, members, that Steering Legislative Governmental Committee, no report. Any other business? Takes us down to statements and announcements. Chairman Allen.
Thank you. There is a meet and greet at Rutherford County Schools with the central office, and it's this Friday at 10 a.m. They primarily invited Health and Ed, and I think they're going to kind of do other commissioners in small groups. But really, I know they would welcome any of you all to come, and it's just a relationship building opportunity for us to get to know them better, them get to know us. A lot of times we only ever see them when we're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, and so this is a good time for us just to have some really informal conversations. So it is this Friday at 10 a.m. Central Office.
Okay. Everybody hear that? Any other statements and announcements? Commissioner P.
Well, I have some good news and some bad news. We hadn't eaten breakfast in a while, and unfortunately this month we're not going to be able to either out of Kittrell.
Oh, don't tell us that.
But I was told that they are planning to restart in January.
Okay, that's good news. All right, after the first of the year, so in 22. Commissioner Reed?
Well, if you're not going to have a ham breakfast, I invite you out to Rockville. This Saturday, we're having the Rutherford's annual turkey shoot that we always have every year. You can come out there and get you a turkey, a ham, a slab of bacon if you're lucky enough to get the right shot in the target. But this is our annual event that we have every year out there at the community center on the old Rockville Road. All the funds go to helping there in the community, and it's a very important event for the Rutherford Club. Look forward to seeing you out there. Starts at 9 o'clock, and they'll keep shooting until they run out of ham, turkeys, and bacon. Usually about 32 rounds.
And ammo. Run out of ammo.
They got plenty of ammo, I think.
Commissioner Cook.
Saturday is our ham breakfast in Laverne, and it starts at 6 and over at 10. So you can come and eat ham with us and then go on out to Eagle.
At the Laverne Rescue Squad. Is that correct? Okay. Other statements and announcements? Members, tomorrow is Veterans Day. We'll be closed. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock in the chamber here is the DAR and SAR. They'll be having a veterans ceremony. I believe the wall, the traveling wall, Vietnam Memorial Wall, will be at Barfield Crescent Park. starting at 2:30, I believe, is that ceremony. Commissioner Gurley?
There will also be a veterans service at Cush Memorial. I believe it's at 11 a.m. Tomorrow morning. Bring your umbrella, probably.
Yeah, bring your umbrella. It's supposed to turn cold. Members, mark down on your calendar because an invitation is going out. It'll be in the paper, but there'll be special VIP invitations are going to be distributed to all the businesses and offices around the square for the grand opening of the Historical Museum on the 21st. That's a Sunday, the 21st. So the VIP reception will start at 2 o'clock for all those who will be affected either through parking or new clients or visitors or whoever else comes and around the square. So at 2 o'clock. Then promptly at 3 o'clock, depending on the weather, out on the front steps east side will be the ribbon cutting. If it's inclement weather, we'll move inside. But the ribbon cutting, Dr. Van West, John Lodell, we'll have Greg Tucker, our county historian as well, will be speaking. Then the museum will be open with the ribbon cutting until 5 o'clock for all citizens to come. But it's your museum. You funded it, so please come. Be here at 2 o'clock with the shop owners and spend as much time as you want. So 2 o'clock, important time, and 3 o'clock on the 21st. Last thing is just wish you a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Commissioner Gammon.
Mayor, I hope you can spread some light on this. Superintendent Cope won an award recently.
Yes, sir. The Family Center out of Nashville, and we have a facility here that works in child abuse prevention. And Superintendent Cope is the recipient throughout the mid-state area. And he was selected and will be given that honor and award at the Lowe's Vanderbilt luncheon, I believe Saturday maybe. I'm not sure when that is, but if you get a chance, tell him congratulations. So he was selected with his work in child abuse prevention within our community. Anything else to come before us? Next Wednesday. That's correct. What Commissioner Phillips had talked about, the joint meeting with GNRC and Michael Skipper. Anything else? Come before us. Happy Thanksgiving. We'll stand adjourned.